Hey everyone, this is Tom from MonTac here, and this is the Weekly MonTac Matchup, and with me we have got the rising contender, currently undefeated, Crimson Deceit, coming in at rank 8, their first taste of rank 8. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing quite alright. How are you?
I'm doing alright, just getting through the week. It is great to have you on, and we have got some very interesting matchups for you to have a look at. What we're going to go into is Hexbow versus Squishy, both players you've had a little bit of experience with. Obviously, Squishy is the returning champion after a little bit of a hiatus, and they're taking on Hexbow, who you spent a decent amount of time practicing with. Do you reckon Hexbow is experienced enough to take on someone of this caliber, or do you think Squishy's going to take this one?
Hexpo has him to pull out some last-minute tricks, but would put money on Squishy, considering he has much more experience into it, and he just plays his cards a bit more competitively, I guess.
Oh, fair enough. Then let's move on to your next matchup. We are going to get you, and you're taking on the three-time former champion in Misfire. Obviously, Misfire is now using the Divine Commander moniker, so highly likely they're going to come in with some sort of Angel variant. How confident are you feeling going into this matchup? It is outside the top 5, so you are guaranteed to potentially go for a draw, but what's your goal heading into this matchup, and how confident are you feeling on achieving it?
If anything, I'm not really going in to just, draw and stuff. I'm gonna try to knock him out and all that, but from what it does seem like, he has always been played a bit more aggressively, especially with Angels, so... No, but it does seem like an interesting deck and stuff, how he plays, considering his last matches.
I mean, you do have the stylistic advantage, obviously. You've got the Vigilantes that you commonly use. Obviously, there could be a deck change. Anything's possible. But they do have the great ability to shut down those Beowulf plays from the Angels. And even their Apex is quite stoppable with the current Vigilante package you do have. I think it's just going to really come down to a stylistic versus experience. And I think you've got a really good chance of pulling it off. But if you do pull it off, this is going to be a major victory as you head into those higher ranks. As we get into the next matchup, we've got Lucky versus Weisstein. Lucky obviously it's about 1-1 on their records with each other. Lucky obviously probably likely to use some sort of gamblers, and Weisstein using some sort of vigilantes like yourself. How do you see this match going, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
Well, from previous matches that I've watched, I do think Lucky will come out on top, just because he usually does better in these kind of matchups. But who knows, really? Might have changed. Zion might have changed something up. Maybe play a bit better.
What makes you think that Lucky would come out on top?
Well, just more of the experience. I have more experience with him. I've seen more of his matches and stuff. So I do think Lucky might win this one.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get on to the title match. We're going to see Sparrow versus Dan B. Obviously, Sparrow going to be using, gosh, who knows, probably some sort of FTK, OTK, and Dan B using Steel Edge. Obviously, Dan B's last major loss was to Sparrow, where Sparrow was able to FTK them with Sunwalkers. Do you think Sparrow uses those Sunwalkers again, even though it was a bit of a lucky shot? Do you reckon they'll rely on trying to get that win again through that same method, or do you think they'll potentially spec into a Steel Edge deck as they have in the past in their previous title match with Lucky?
Honestly, I think he might have, considering his last match and stuff, he might have learned from that luck and sort of adjusted his deck towards that, which would be very interesting to see if he does. If he doesn't, just kind of uses his same deck, then we'll have this Steel Edge type thing matchup.
Yeah, so Steel Edge is a bit of an interesting deck. It is a bit slow now. With the current way the meta is moving along, do you think that slower decks with a larger build-up towards the end are going to be better, or do you think a lot of our faster pace decks like Sunwalkers and Bandits, etc. are just going to outrun them?
Well, personally, I think that the faster ones will always beat the slow build-up, because if they can knock out all the materials that they need to have that build-up, then they're not really going to be able to build up, and then it's going to kind of fall apart.
Now, that's very interesting, because you actually have a much more defensive style. You have a lot more defensive cards really orientated to stopping those coming right through, so... How do you feel about going up against OTKs? Because your deck is quite prepared for it. Do you think you match up favorably against a lot of those more popular ones like Bandits and Sunwalkers, etc.?
Well, from my experience against Bandits, if I get unlucky, I just kind of get through, because my deck, like how you said, it is more defensive style, and really isn't about the heavy hitter style. So depending on what their power is, I might not be able to take down theirs, even if I do have all these defensive mechanics and stuff.
Do you generally handle and kind of go in the direction of control decks, or are you more like, is this just something a bit different to what? Are you playing it more safe this time, or what's your general style when going into matchups?
Well, I am going to be, I have been utilizing the Apex and that other creature, I don't remember the name right now. What was the other one? The Rana, whatever.
Ah, yes, Barox. The Barbarian,
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I have noticed that with it, I can actually get to a very high power that can generally rush through almost anything, as I have noticed, except for a Tyrannus, but that's because it has 52,000 power, which is always difficult. Always going to be a difficulty one. It's a punch over. But other than that, I have made it through multiple monsters with that one card, just because of its doubling power.
What do you think are like the top two major threats OTK-wise that you think are actually more competitively viable than the rest?
Skywalkers definitely do pose a threat, along with Angels, mainly because they've always been used a lot more. They have more of a refinement into them.
Fair enough. And so what are your thoughts on bandits? Do you think they have the potential of really getting up there, or do you think it's just not quite enough at this stage in the game's direction?
Well, from my experience with Nynx, and we have gone through many matches, I have noted that they are actually very viable, and that if you would play it correctly, I honestly do think that this would be a meta kind of thing that would overtake both of the Skywalker and Angel decks completely, if it is used properly.
Interesting. Okay, so you're thinking like, oh wow, okay, so that really, I mean, I've always said they're great, but it's great to hear someone else thinks that as well, not just the crazy creator.
Because of the special one, the Bandit Lockdown, I believe it was, the one where it sets to 1 HP, and then all of your other bandits all the other bandits will get like heavy power. Like there's one that has 10,000 power and 2 attacks a turn. And these cards and these lockdowns just keep coming back up and popping up and up and up, and it's just a generally annoyance.
Yeah, fair. I mean, they've got that real consistent threat, obviously, on board at all times. Now, you've mentioned that you've played your friend Nyx quite a lot to just really get the hang of the game and obviously practice. Do you believe Nyx... What do you think of Nyx's potential in the competition? Do you think they have the ability to get into the top 5, top 10? You know, what are your thoughts on the current Nyx, and how do you think they would go against some of the opponents you've faced thus far?
I think they would do just fine, really, if not better than me. I mean, we have played multiple times, and we've always seemed to be at this point of where, like, neither one of us are better than the other. Mainly because I'm, like you said it before, I'm very defensive. I have all these defense cards, and they just can't push through that a lot.
Well, we went on a bit of a tangent there, but it was great to talk to you, Crimson. Thank you for giving me your thoughts on these matchups. Are there any you particularly want to have watch on the weekend? Any you think you might tune in for?
Well, personally, I'm gonna obviously peer into all of them here and there, but mainly I would always like to see the higher matchups with Sparrow and Dan B, mainly because that's main cards, you know. Those are the 2 top guys, you know. You can see them, learn from what they do, and then sort of contract into your own type of thing. You can learn from what they're doing at that ranking.
Yeah, of course.
The same goes for like Lucky and Zwine. So they're also 3 and 4 rankings. That's still pretty high, really.
So you're thinking you're more like on that top 4 thoughts. So anything like 4 and above is really where you're looking to learn from.
That's where I'm gonna be looking a lot into, and as well as like the very newer people, like Hexbow, for example. I'd probably look into him, considering that a new player means could mean a new strategy, a new combo that the previous players have not thought of, because they already have these decks that they don't want to swap out of.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the nail of the head. We had Lucky when they came in January. Obviously, their major declaration was that Star Hand was a terrible card after it had been a major staple. So while they did go through a massive rough patch, as soon as they entered the tournament, they just went undefeated while not using Star Hand, which completely changed how people thought. More search cards were created, and the game was completely changed. So, yeah, that's a fair enough assumption. Obviously, you and Hexpo have had practices as well, so your rankings aren't too far apart. So it's not impossible, especially if he keeps winning. It could be quite a very fun matchup indeed.
Honestly, it would be good to see him again, to play against him again, because last time we played, we were like 2-2. We were pretty much I won, then he won, and then I won again. Mainly because of how cards were played, how cards were denied.
Oh gosh. Well, we might be looking at the next generation of future champions. Thank you, Crimson, for coming on. I should mention this was for the 20th of May. I did not at the start, but it's fine. Thank you for coming on and giving on your thoughts. I can't wait to see your matchup, and I wish you good luck. Alright, everyone, you know the YouTube stuff to do. Like, comment, subscribe, have fun, have a great day. This has been Tom. I'll see you later.